Hello, this is Adrian Moreno. I am the founder and CEO of Potentia and the co-creator of the Neuro Remapping method. And in my episode for the Business Growth Architect Show, I will share and discuss exactly how you can find where these upper limits are coming from. If you're running into something that's keeping you from growing right now, we're going to help you discover exactly why that's showing up, exactly how you can get rid of it so you can become wildly successful without going emotionally bankrupt.
Hello, fabulous person. Beate Gillette here, the Growth Architect. Welcome back to the Business Growth Architect Show, where we bring you cutting-edge business strategies from some of the world's most successful entrepreneurs, business transformation experts, and visionaries who want to help you to scale your impact. Look for one tangible strategy that you can take back and implement right away. And now back to our guest. Welcome back to the Business Growth Architect Show. Today, I have somebody very special. Actually, we're going to talk about something I think kind of a little bit unique. So here with me is Adrian Moreno. And Adrian has some very specific things he wants to talk to you about, especially when it comes to the upper limit, your limitations. Adrian, somebody who has never met you before, what would you tell them about yourself? And welcome to the show.
Well, thanks a lot for having me. I'm super excited to be here. So whenever somebody asks me, a little bit about like what I do or anything, I like to put it this way. You know how when you become an entrepreneur, all of a sudden you start hitting we start gaining what we call momentum. So you can imagine like a hot air balloon. You're trying to jump inside of that hot air balloon and you start gaining some momentum, start catching some flight. But then all of a sudden, when you're doing really well and you're flying high, all of a sudden that hot air balloon starts coming down and you start going back up, starts coming back down again. Well, if you look inside of the hot air balloon, there's a bunch of sandbags weighing down the balloon, making it impossible to get to where you're going a lot smoother. In other words, entrepreneurs, they gain a lot of momentum and they win. Then all of a sudden they have deeper doubts, fears, and anxieties they never thought they'd have before, they never dealt with before. And then all of a sudden, they can't seem to break they can't seem to break their revenue. All of a sudden, they can't seem to figure out why they can't have anybody stick on their team. They have high turnover and they're wondering why the heck they keep acting in a certain way that's just stopping them from growing. What I do is I help people remove that sandbag very quickly. And I do it in a accelerated way. In other words, I just help them find exactly the root cause behind the issues in their life, whether it's a behavior issue or maybe it's just a result, like they can't seem to break $100,000 a month, right? And they're trying to figure out what's going on. I help people figure out why that's happening so they can get rid of it. And I like to say, become really wildly successful without going emotionally bankrupt on the way. That makes sense.
So this was a loaded answer. So there are so many things in here that we need to look into and unpack. So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show, Adrian, is because you told me about this term upper limit. And my understanding of the upper limit is that we kind of get to a certain point and that seems to be easy. And then there is a plateau. And we cannot break through this plateau. So let's say you go to $100,000 to stay with your example, and then you fall back to 50, 75, you go back to 100,
exactly.
But you just can't get to the 110 or the 125 or the 150 or double the 200. So we already done a lot of conversations around mindset. So what are the elements that go into the work that you do? So one obviously is mindset. What other pieces do we need to know that we need to address?
Yeah. So really, when it comes to mindset, I think a lot of people have a limited view on what mindset is. When I'm talking about mindset, I'm actually talking about the way that your neurons are actually wired in your brain. That is the way that your mind is set to operate, depending on the way that it's wired. So for example, I had a client come to me. He said, Adrian, I can make $100,000 a month, no problem. But the moment I hit $100,000 a month, for some odd reason, clients start canceling, team members start leaving, deals stop falling through. I start losing money. Like I start making really stupid money decisions. And for some reason, I can't break past the $100,000 a month mark. He's like, I have no idea what's going on. Figure out what's going on. So when I work with somebody, remember, I'm not concerned with symptoms. A symptom is I can't hit 100,000. I can't break through $100,000 a month. A symptom is I get anxious every single time I have to lead a meeting. These are symptoms that we try to fix. I don't really pay attention to that. I like to get down to why is this symptom even here? In other words, so a way that I do that is by using Neuro Remapping, which is a process that's designed to help somebody get down to the psychological root cause. And the root cause is always an idea. Let me paint a picture for you. In this context, working with this client, when I get somebody into a state of mind, so what it actually looks like to work with me is right now you're in beta brainwaves. I get somebody's brainwaves and I start to slower them down into what we call theta. So there's beta and then alpha and theta. When you're in theta brainwaves, you have this doorway in between your conscious and unconscious mind. When you hit theta, that doorway disappears, meaning you can communicate directly to that unconscious part of yourself, right? And so this unconscious has all these beliefs, and a lot of times we don't even know that we have them. And so these beliefs contain memories too. So in this case, my client went back to a memory inside theta brainwaves. I said, I'm about to figure out why you can't break past $100,000 a month. He went back to a moment and he goes, I'm sitting down on a dirt floor right now. I'm in a house with no wall, with no doors and no windows. And I was like, how old are you? He said, I'm 3 years old right now. I said, where are you at? He goes, I'm back at home in the Philippines. I was like, interesting. What's going on right now? He goes, well, there's just nothing here. And I said, how do you feel? He goes, I feel like this is good enough. I was like, this is good enough. What's this? He said, nothing. Right now, I'm under shade. So if I want anything more than this, it's selfish. In that moment, he made a decision to believe that wanting things more was selfish. And so here he was at 28 years old, making $1 million a year. The more and more money he made, the more and more guilty he felt because of that belief in his mind. So I helped him find that belief and we get rid of it, which I can talk about how to do too. But you get rid of the belief and then all of a sudden, the results that you were getting just change. Because now this is reverse engineering at its finest. This is finding exactly what's going on, changing it so your results start to change. It's been maybe 4 or 5 months since I've done work with that client. He's hitting about $350,000 a month right now. His last month, he hit over $350,000 a month. How do these things happen? He didn't do anything different. He's still doing all the same things, but it's not a matter of what you do. It's a matter of who you're being when you do what you do. And so now who he's being is somebody who genuinely believes it's safe to go for everything that you want. When we installed that belief in his mind, it reorganized itself to start acting like it was okay to go for what he wanted. Then all of a sudden, the revenue ceiling became a memory and no longer an actual ceiling that's there. So when I work with somebody, what it entails is really just one thing. It's just, okay, you have this symptom. Talk to me about it for like 10, 15 minutes. I'm not a therapist. I don't like spend time talking about it. I'm like, okay, we know what's going on. Now let's get down to the subconscious root cause behind what's actually happening. So like I said, it's like a very accelerated way that doesn't involve coaching. It's not about tactics. I don't talk about strategies with people. It's just, hey, you have the strategies and tactics, but do you have the emotional capacity to hold what those strategies and tactics are going to get you? Does that make sense?
That makes great sense. So now what I want to do is I want to like yank this a little bit in the direction of strategy, of course, because it is a show on strategy. So now that we talk about really liberating our subconscious belief system through a technique that you're using to help people to free themselves from their own limiting beliefs, and not the limiting beliefs that your mommy said she didn't love you. I mean, that could be one of the things. But
that could definitely be one of them. Yep.
But, things that we oftentimes are completely unaware of. Mm-hmm. So how does this fit into an entrepreneur, business owner, founder who is listening to the show, expecting a topic on strategy. Where's the strategy in this? And for those of you who can't see him, he's laughing right now. So I can't wait to you go ahead.
I am
you go ahead. Tell us.
It's like entrepreneur. And I don't blame entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur too. Like when I was working with my somatic therapist, I remember thinking that before I hired her, I was like, but what are the steps? I was like, what are we practically going to do? I was like, I understand you're going to make me feel safe, but how the heck are we going to do that? Right? What's the strategy? So I totally get that. So where does it fit into an entrepreneur's life really quick? And let's dive into some strategy on like some things they can actually do. Now, where does it fit into an entrepreneur's life? This is literally everything. Everything in your life is a belief. It is a result of a belief. Now, what I mean by that, let's get scientific really quickly. So if you're looking at your life, right, you want to change your results. What's creating all of your results? You drive back a little bit, you see it's your behavior. Pretty obvious. You sit on the couch, eat hot Cheetos all day, you're going to end up, right?
Looking like a hot Cheeto.
Right? Exactly.
Maybe not like a hot Cheeto, maybe just like a
hot
Cheeto.
Cheeto puff, right? and then if you exercise, you eat right, you look good naked, right? Your results are pretty determined. I'm pretty dictated by what you do. We all know that. Go back a little bit. What influences what you do? Well, behind every action is a feeling. You can never do something without feeling something. So when somebody says, I feel numb, congratulations, that is a feeling. There's always a feeling present no matter what. You feel your way through life. What is influencing all of those feelings? Well, this is where we get down to physics. Physics says that a feeling is nothing more but an electromagnetic force of energy. Physics also says that everything in the universe is electromagnetic. It's electromagnetic unit of energy. It's an electromagnetic force of energy. Where neuroscience says that each thought is an electromagnetic unit of energy. And just like calories are units of energy and they build up your body. Beliefs are units of electromagnetic energy that build up the body of your experience. For example, if you genuinely, so let's not use a revenue example. Let's just use a client who had just a lot of anxiety around being a leader. Like he started hitting 6-7 figures, and the more people he hired, the more he felt like, oh my God, I can't, like, there's no way I can lead this company. And so working with him, he believed that he was bad and that he should be punished because at like age 3, he stayed up late one day and his dad like basically like kind of spanked him. And this is what I'm saying. Like our minds are so like interesting. We can go through one moment and decide to believe something because of the moment. And in that moment, he says, I'm bad. So what happens is when you have a belief, let's use this example that you're bad. What's going to happen is you're going to focus on that belief, whether you know it or not. You start to focus on it. Remember, it's energy. So if you focus on a belief, it intensifies the energy of that belief. The more you focus, why Tony Robbins says, where energy goes, where focus goes, energy flows, right? You focus on that idea, it grows in its energy, and then it sends strong vibrations of energy that you feel as a feeling. And now you're feeling like you're bad. Now you're acting like you're bad. Now you're acting like you're not good enough because you think you're bad. Then all of a sudden your results in your business are showing. So when you ask, where does it fit in? It is literally your entire business. On a scientific level, there is no outside game. On a scientific level, everything in the universe literally is a reflection of an internal idea. That's why we have mirror neurons. Literally, everything is a projection of electromagnetic energy. So with each thought you think, you manipulate your physical environment. And this is not just like spirituality there. Go pick up a modern physics book and you're going to see really quickly, oh, dang, our thoughts really do manipulate our physical environment. So there is no, I like to say the inside is the outside. The only way out is in. It's in and through. So if you're not happy with what's going on in your business right now, or maybe you're just not happy with how you're feeling, this is going to allow you, this is a scientific approach to getting what you want. Does that make sense?
I love that. So I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball here.
Please.
So let's say we are talking to somebody who says, yes, but I am the result of the circumstances of my life. I now I've had a tough upbringing. My dad left, single mom. I hung out with a couple of the wrong people. I'm just not in the same position as the guy who grew up in Beverly Hills and had parents who were able to afford everything for them. So you are wrong, Adrian, because they are pre-programmed to be more successful because they're around successful parents, so they have an advantage. I, however, who did not have that, obviously you must see that I'm in a disadvantage. And so how do we explain this concept to someone who has an inherent sense of that there are others who are more privileged and therefore more prone to be successful, but I am not? How do we get this out of them?
That is a wonderful question. I mean, I cannot believe out of all the podcasts I've been on, nobody's asked me that. That is such a good question. So first off, I am not here to belittle anybody's past experiences. Your experiences are very valid. You went through what you went through. I'm not saying you didn't. And number two, let me just be very blunt here. What I would say is, well, have you seen somebody who was broke, who made it into something? Absolutely. The moment they answer that, that just shuts down everything they just told me, because I'm like, well, apparently it's possible. So like what you're throwing at me is just limitations, which I appreciate. I appreciate them. I don't buy into them, because my value is not by buying into people's limitations. My value is by challenging them and showing them that it is a limitation. So that will be number one. I'm like, well, go look around. You've seen it done. Great.
Oprah did it.
Yeah, Oprah did it, right? And she was like extremely disadvantaged. But it's also like, I do believe privilege is a thing. Like, I'm not gonna like just ignore the fact that, hey, you're born in a certain area, you have better chances at getting certain things. Absolutely. But that question is based off of the belief that you are bound by past experiences. If somebody were to ask me that, it's because they genuinely believe that they are bound by past experiences. In other words, the past is why I am the way I am today. Well, let's put it this way. There's two monks. They're walking down this path and they see this beautiful woman who says, I need to get on the other side of the path, but I have this white dress and I can't get it dirty. And so one of the monks says, I'll pick you up and I'll carry you to the other side. He picks her up, carries her to the side. Him and the other monk, they continue walking. 5 hours down the line. The other monk just says, I can't believe you picked her up. We're not supposed to touch women. You picked her up. Why did you do that? The other monk stops and he goes, I put her down 5 hours ago. Have you been carrying her all of this time? In other words, we're carrying ideas from yesterday, acting like they are in today. You are not responsible for how you were programmed growing up, but you are responsible for changing your programs right now. I came from a place of, like, again, no money, nothing like that, no advantages, did not know anybody, but I changed the idea that I could do something. It just came down to changing a belief about myself. And so regardless of where you're starting out at, if you're listening to this podcast, it's because you genuinely believe that you can control and you can create what you want, or else you wouldn't even be tuning into this podcast, right? And so, yeah, that's what I'd give them, is just kind of just be very blunt with it. Give them what they need to hear, maybe not what they want to hear, but what you need to hear is that you are responsible for the results you're creating in your life right now, not your past. And if you genuinely believe that your past is responsible for it, then it will always seem that way, because beliefs do become real for the one who holds them.
I really think this was a very important message, which is why I wanted to dive into this a little bit.
Yes, I'm so happy you asked me that. Oh my God.
Because I think, Adrian, it comes down to exactly what you said. If you know somebody who's done it, it must be possible. If it is possible, it must be possible for you. Then the question is, what are you going to do to make it happen? Exactly. So, and so if we reverse engineer this, and the other part about this is that I want to add as well is sometimes the hard path, I call this the activation. I'll call this God's activation. So if you have gone through these really hard trial and tribulations, oftentimes the activation process is designed for you to have greater compassion, empathy, and understanding of where the people that you are taking on your journey are at, so you can help them even more. And so if you liberate yourself, and if we help people to liberate themselves from this belief system, then they should be able to be limitless. So let's talk about this here for a second. So your favorite strategy, how do you go in and help someone? What is the strategy that you use, your favorite strategy, to get people really most often out of their own way?
Absolutely. Yes. Wonderful question. So there's a couple of parts to this. Now, I'm going to break down some practical things that your audience can start doing today. Now, in terms of like a strategy that I use, it is a process I created called Neuro Remapping. But I'm going to break down how you can take Neuro Remapping, and because like in order to like actually go through it, like I have to work with somebody. But you can take from Neuro Remapping and start doing this work yourself. You do not need to hire me or I'm the only one who does this kind of the Neuro Remapping, but there's other people who do change work in the brain, right? You don't need to go hire them. There are things you can do yourself. So the first thing that I'm going to recommend you do, it sounds so simple, but people bypass it. And it is actually become aware of what you believe. Like so many people who try to change their beliefs do it from a completely unaware space of what they even believe to be true. For the longest, I believed that I did not deserve love, but I not once focused on that belief because in my mind, I was like, no, I don't believe that to be true. But my body was so fearful of the thought of being intimate romantically with somebody. I was like, the moment it gets to a romantic intimacy, I all of a sudden get afraid, right? Pay attention to what you're feeling and how you're acting. How you're feeling and how you're acting are direct representations of your belief system. For example, if you're undercharging for your services, if you got some past due invoices that you're too scared to charge, if you're too afraid to speak up and share what you truly believe, you probably believe that your needs aren't important. So you're acting like your needs are not important. But if you don't face that belief for a belief, you're going to keep seeing through it and you're never going to see it. So you have to be willing to see your beliefs and stop seeing through them. Here's a very simple way you can do that. So the first way is to monitor your actual thoughts and feelings and your behaviors. Your feelings and your behaviors more so than your thoughts, because your thoughts are all over the goddamn place, right? but
were you with me yesterday? My thoughts were all over the place. Yeah,
exactly, right. And it's like I'm enough one moment, the next moment I'm not good enough.
God,
right?
There's just
and
Jesus,
so,
yes.
But if your feelings and your behaviors don't lie, you will only do what you believe. People don't. Why do you think people don't do what they say? They don't do what they say because what they say is not what they believe all the time. You only do what you believe. So if you're doing limited things, if you're acting in a limited way, pay attention to that feeling that's behind that action, and you're going to become aware of your belief. For example, I woke up one day feeling super anxious. It was like a year and a half ago. I was like, why the hell do I feel so anxious? So what I did was I just felt my feeling and I said, I feel like I'm a failure. The only reason I would feel like a failure, remember, feelings follow ideas and beliefs in our mind. So if I feel like a failure, that must mean I believe I'm a failure. Oh, I became aware of the belief that I'm a failure. Do you see how this works? I'm like, oh, I believe I'm a failure. But when you find a belief, then you can remind yourself, oh, this is just a belief about reality. It's not reality itself. But I also went deeper. I was like, I think I'm a failure because I let people down. Because at the time I was like struggling financially. I made some stupid decisions with other people's money. So I was like, I feel like I let people down, which means I'm a burden. I'm a burden. Maybe I believe I'm a burden. And I felt my throat get tight. I was like, oh, I got
my throat just was getting all dry. You just saying that, I literally picked up on that energy. It was kind of that, like, I can't even swallow.
Exactly.
And energy.
Look, what you just did was very important. What I want people to pay attention to what you just did. You paid attention to your nervous system's response to my suggestion. If your nervous system if you have an emotional response to a statement, if you say it and it hits you, you probably actually believe it to be true within yourself. Like if I sit here and say, I'm a 5-year-old little girl, I want to laugh because of how flat and silly that feels, because it holds no emotional pull in me. But if I sit here and say I'm worthy and deserving of everything that I want, my heart smiles, I feel good, my posture changes because it's a genuine belief in me. So you literally just demonstrated what I want people to do. Pay attention to how your body feels.
I'm actually going to jump in here because I think
please go ahead. I love this.
This is like happening in real time. So I think that we're having a great example. So my daughter got married just a few days ago. And there was this moment where she has this incredible dress with, this massive 32-piece bustle that had to be, tied back up to make the dress look good.
Yep.
And there was a moment where I stood there and I looked at the dress and my mind went completely blank. And I knew that I couldn't do it. And I started to, and I'm not anxious. And I got my stuff down most of the time. But
yeah, so you mean like you don't live with anxiety every day?
I really don't ever. But there was this moment, Adrian, where I'm going like, I feel I am failing her. And so when you just said that feeling that I literally just had 2 days ago as I stood there, completely in a panic because we had to get her out for her first dance and the grand entrance as husband and wife. And I'm sitting there with this bustle and I couldn't, I was panicking in so many words. Thank God I had people around me that could cover for me. But so this feeling, so let's stay with this example because I want you to help people to understand what's happening here.
Yes, this is perfect. Let me ask you this. Okay, this is going to go with it. Okay.
Go ahead. Let's go with it.
So where is there other places in your life where you feel like you're a failure or you're failing? You don't have to say what those places are, but are there any other place in your life where that feeling comes up?
It was definitely the memory of my childhood where I was told that I am not good and that I failed at school and failed at this and failed at that. I mean, I have lots of excellent failures in my life. Consciously, I understand that this brought me here. But in that moment, when this panic came, I knew there was something there that I probably need to.
Yeah, like there's a sandbag there. So if you say, I feel like a failure, what you want to do is you want to follow that up with this statement, because I feel like a failure. I feel like I'm failing my daughter because I can't do this right. I can't do this right. I can't do anything right. You start following your thought process.
Yeah.
Right?
Then the catastrophe in your mind just starts to.
And then you just go on this.
Look for examples of all the cases that I failed before. And therefore, and now I have proof.
Yes. Use that. Exactly. You use that to say, oh, look, I'm a failure. But that's what people's problem is they think that they feel and think the way that they do because of their outside environment. But your outside environment is the way it is because of the way that you feel, because of the things that you do. I mean, because of the things that you think. That's why your outside environment is the way it is. So let's stick with this example. And let's say you go through, I'm a failure. I can't do anything right. And you also just said earlier, I was told I wasn't good. So let's just say hypothetically, you genuinely believe that you're not good enough. Right. And that's a very notorious belief for entrepreneurs. Now, when I say this, most people, they're like, I am good enough. What do you think? Right. But what I want them is emotions are not logical. Pay attention to how you feel. If you say, oh, I'm not good enough, and you feel it, if you feel congruent with that statement, there's no shame. Understand that that's a belief about reality, but it's not reality. This moves me on to step 2. So once you become aware of the belief, right, through this process, or the second way you can become aware of beliefs is by literally just getting a piece of pen and paper and answering these 3 questions. What do I believe to be true about myself? What do I believe to be true about life? And what do I believe to be true about others? Those 3 questions. If you answer honestly, and people tend to look for only the bad beliefs. Find the good beliefs too. Find what's working. Focus on what's working. Just start listing them out. I believe blank to be true. I believe blank to be true. I believe that I have to chase clients. Oh, where'd that come from? Right. And you start writing all these things down. It's another way to become aware of your beliefs other than observing them. Right. And then, of course, hiring me, I help you become aware of them really quickly. Right. But anyways,
No,
so that,
we will talk. We will talk about this in a minute. So let's just take a quick break and we will be right back. Thank you so much for listening to the show. This is Beate, the growth architect. I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you so much for your time. Have you ever wondered why your business is not growing as quickly as you would like it to be? Well, you may have a business growth blocker. And if you'd like to find out what that business growth blocker is, go and take our brand new quiz at growthblockerquiz.com. And in only a few minutes, you're not just going to find out what that blocker is, but also what to do about it. Again, go to growthblockerquiz.com. And now back to the show. And welcome back. I'm here with Adrian Moreno, and we're talking about upper limits, limiting belief systems. And we just had a fascinating occurrence where Adrian shared something that I had a physical reaction to, and we dove right in. So I want you to really pay attention to the energetic connection that even you as a listener are having to an interview. You're not here with us, and yet you are here with us because there's a resonance in the body. So Adrian, personal question for you. What is it about for you? Why do you do what you do?
I'm a storyteller. So when I was 4 years old, my mom woke me up in the middle of the night around like 1 a.m. And she said, Adrian, I need you to get your shoes on, get your clothes on, and pack your bag with your favorite toys because we got to go. Remember, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm confused. My brother's 5 years old. She dresses him. She dresses me up. She carries us out. She puts us in the car, and then we start driving down. We had a long driveway. We're going down this long driveway, headlights off, pitch black, middle of the night. I'm like, this is weird. She drives us to our grandma's house. We pull up to my grandma's. I'm like, okay, this is even more weird. Like, what are we doing at grandma's at 1 o'clock in the morning? She takes us inside. She lays me and my brother down on the couch. We're laying there. I'm looking up. And all of a sudden, I see headlights go through. By the way, my mom, my grandma, and my aunt, who lived with my grandma at the time, they all went to the back room and they were like having an adult conversation. The light shine through. I get up. I walk up to the door out of curiosity to see who it is. I'm in my little Power Ranger underwear looking out the door, and I see my dad's truck. And I'm like, I get excited. Dad's here, right? Favorite man in the world. It's my Hulk, right? Dad pulls up. I'm excited. But instead of my grandma, my aunt, my mom welcoming him in, my aunt, my grandma, my mom come running out, and my aunt, she runs outside and she starts cussing at my dad. She starts saying, get the fuck out of here. You don't like, what are you doing here? You piece of shit. And I'm sitting there at 4 years old, clueless. So what the hell's going on? And I'm like, why are you talking to my dad like this? Why does my dad look sad? And then in this moment, something changed forever. In this moment, I looked out of the front window and I saw my dad, the strongest man in the world at that time, drop to his knees, screamed at the top of his lungs. And he said, Adrian, and he said, Nancy, please don't leave me. And please don't take my boys away from me. When he said that in that moment, remember I talked about how we make decisions about what's true and what's not true. In that moment, my little 4-year-old mind did the best that it could, and it made a decision. And that decision was, mom and dad are breaking up, which means I am not safe anymore. This belief that I wasn't safe became something for me. And then I grew up with so much anxiety and fear of being myself. You ever been scared to be yourself, like around people? I felt so scared of being myself. I felt so scared of being able to just be, to the point where I became an entrepreneur and this anxiety amplified. And then I found myself making $500,000, but losing all of it because I did not feel safe in my nervous system. And that is when I decided to actually dive into understanding the way that we can change our thoughts, feelings, and actions And at that point, I was able to remind myself in my nervous system that I was safe. And that's why I do what I do, because there's so much entrepreneurs who genuinely do not feel safe in their nervous systems. They're doing what they're doing because they're hoping it brings them love. They're doing what they're doing because they're hoping it brings them some significance. They're hoping it makes them feel safe. But the reality is they're emotionally bankrupt. And helping people feel safe if you feel safe in your nervous system, you make bigger decisions, you take bigger risks, you go out there, you make shit happen because you feel safe. Elon Musk built Tesla because he realized he can live off of $1 a day. In college, you did an experiment. If I can live off of $1 a day, I can go balls to the wall, taking the biggest risk ever in my business to grow because I can still live off of $1 a day. When he proved that he could live off of $1 a day, he felt safe enough to go for one of the biggest things that literally disrupted the world. And first PayPal, which disrupted the banking system, and then Tesla, which, as we know, is disrupting cars, and now SpaceX, which is disrupting the way that we think about space travel, all because he feels safe enough to do so. So that's why I do what I do, really is.
Really, really, really powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I had this vision of this young boy, this cute little tidy-whitey underwear or superhero underwear, standing there barefoot and experiencing something so dramatic that clearly, you can't understand at this time, and you're making up the story around it to comprehend and cope with it. So I want to wrap this up now and really just reiterate that what we talked about today is a absolutely critical element of entrepreneurship, business ownership, and success in life. Everybody has a story that prohibits him or her or them from making the amount of money that they say they deserve, that they say that they should have, that they say should be theirs. But deep down, if you don't believe that this is yours, then there's nobody there who's going to convince you otherwise, except maybe Adrian. But tell us then, for somebody who listened to this and said, I must know where to find this man, I need his help, where should we send them, Adrian?
Yes, for sure. So I'd actually like to give them a gift, which would be the best place to send them. And then this gift will validate everything I talked about today. And then from there, they can choose whether they want to go deeper or not. But I believe that experience is the best way to change, right? So what I did was I created an experience. So what I do, like I talked a lot about today, finding the root cause and breaking through it. If right now you're running into a upper limit, in other words, whether you're running into a revenue ceiling, whether you are just constantly sabotaging your success and you can't figure out why, or maybe you just feel incongruent right now, I created a process called the Rapid Rewire Experience, which is going to do everything I talked about today in terms of helping you pinpoint a belief and then do the work to rewire your neural pathways around that belief for good. All you got to do is go to www.rewiremythoughts.com/unshakable. www.rewiremythoughts.com/unshakable. I'm sure that'll be in the show notes below. Yes. But if you go directly to that, yes, you got to give me your information. But the moment you give me your information, check your email, and there's going to be an experience for you to go through, and you'll be able to experience that. And from there, you will have validation for everything I shared about today and the fact that this stuff is real and it's not a joke, and it's very, very profound for anybody who experiences it. So when they go through there, they'll get all my socials and all that through email. I'll be emailing them like, hey, follow me here, but just to make it simple for them.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for doing that. So to sum it up, I do believe that what we talked about today is probably one of the problems that I run in most often in my business consulting.
A lot of us do. I do too.
Yeah, where we have to be really aware of it. I always say you invest time or money. You just have to decide which is more valuable to you. In my world, time is a luxury that I don't get more of. So I'd rather pay some money to save time versus trying to spend years and years and years and years to figure this out. I hear your results are phenomenal and very, very, very quickly in a very short amount of time. So definitely worth it. So go ahead and check out Adrian. Thank you so much for being here today. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you for having me.
And that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening or watching the Business Growth Architect Show. This is your host, Beate Chalette, and goodbye. And that's it for us today. Thank you for listening and watching the Business Growth Architect Show. I enjoyed having you here. And for accountability, just take one of the strategies that you have heard, one thing that you can implement in your business immediately. Please leave comments. Don't forget to like and share this show. And if you have any questions about business, please put them in the comments. We are here for you. We're here to support you and help you to grow, build, and scale your own business. For more advice, please check out our website in the show notes below. Thank you again. This is Beate Chalette, the Growth Architect, and goodbye.